I've been ignoring something for weeks now. And it's finally gotten to the point where I feel like I can't ignore it because it's become such a big thing among DEPP supporters, at least on Twitter, which I know is a small world. And also, I have viewers now asking me what's up because people are very confused and they know that there's a controversy and they know that the controversy has something to do with possible malfeasance or at least deliberate underperformance by Brown Rudnick, Johnny Depp's attorneys, and accusations by some of Johnny Depp's biggest online defenders and even one of Johnny Depp's friends, Josh Richmond. And so it's gotten to the point now where I think it needs to be addressed. And if you're hoping that I'm going to come in guns blazing with like big opinions on who's right and who's wrong, well, that's not the case because I've only now started looking into this. But I did want to explain the layout for people, what the deal is, because so many people just know that there's a big controversy, but they're confused about it and about why. So let me back up. In June, in the summer, Adam Waldman, who a number of you probably remember was Johnny Depp's original attorney. And we're going to get into the reasons why he had to leave, but he remained Johnny's advisor even when he was kicked out of the courtroom, so to speak, or kicked out of the trial. He remained Johnny's advisor and friend throughout. So he posted on Twitter in June his consternation at Nick Wallace's book, in particular, the journalist Nick Wallace, in particular, a chapter in Wallace's book called Waldman's World. And so this chapter actually talked a lot about Adam Waldman. And there were a number of passages in this book that made Waldman look bad and presented the idea that he behaved unethically. And Nick Wallace claimed that someone who was on Johnny's legal team, so we assume one of the Brown Rudnick lawyers, even told Nick Wallace that basically Adam Waldman was a problematic character, a problematic figure. So Adam Waldman got on Twitter and began to refute some of the things that were said about him in Nick Wallace's book. And I think that really opened the door then for certain people, including some of Johnny Depp's biggest defenders, someone who goes by the name Jax. Probably a number of you are familiar with her. She attended the trial, and she is close to Adam Waldman and others in Johnny Depp's life. And so both Jax and, like I said, Johnny Depp's friend Josh Richmond have spoken out and have expressed that something is rotten in the state of Denmark, as it were, that there's some questions that need to be raised, and there are some things that look deeply problematic about the way that Brown Rudnick, the lawyers who handled Johnny's Virginia case, the case we're all familiar with, Ben Chu, Camille Vasquez, and so forth, that there's something deeply problematic about how they handled the case. So what's happened in the last several weeks is that Jax has become more and more pointed in her critiques of Brown Rudman and has basically been dropping hints in some ways and flat out accusations that Brown Rudnick deliberately underperformed for Johnny Depp, and made a number of bad decisions that were not just a matter of incompetence, but were a matter of them in certain ways having a less than total zeal for making Johnny's case and also for defending Adam. And so that's out there. And as you can imagine, then there have been a number of Depp supporters, also people who have been around for a long time, basically from the beginning, big supporters, people that a lot of people look up to on Twitter and so forth, who have then pushed back against this and said, wait a minute, you can't make these kinds of accusations if you're not going to provide proof of that. And if Adam Waldman has issues with how Brown Rudnick conducted the case, and he thinks that there's something shady or that there was malfeasance or there was a two-faced, aspect to this, then he should come out and he should provide the receipts, to which we've been told then that he's going to do that. And so Jax has said, and she is in contact with Waldman, has said that that will be forthcoming, that she's laying the groundwork for it, so people are just not like totally shocked, or who can process what's presented. All right. Again, I don't know. I've only started looking into this, but that is what is going on, is that Jax put this out there, and some others who have also been defending or promoting this perspective. And then that got reaction then from a number of people in the DEPP community who think that Brown Rudnick and Ben and Camille Vasquez did an amazing job for Johnny Depp and worked very hard, and they won the case. They won that trial, and that it's problematic to now be raising these kinds of questions or insinuations or allegations. All right, so that is what is that's what's going on. And so I've had a number of people ask me to try to get to the bottom of this, and I'm not going to be able to do that right now today, but I have read up a lot on it, and I've looked at the Twitter pages of the main players and what they posted and their replies, and just how this whole thing has unfolded over the past several weeks. And so I want to be very clear here. I want to lay out what exactly is at stake. What specifically is Brown Rudnick accused of, and what are the arguments for and against that? Okay. So if you're asking yourself, why on earth would Brown Rudnick, Johnny Depp's attorneys, who seemed, by all appearances, to work so hard for him during that trial, and we all saw like that amazing examination and cross-examination of Amber by Camille Vasquez, right? Which I totally celebrated and continue to think it was amazing. Why on earth would they be engaging in some kind of shady practices to undermine Johnny Depp's case? Well, here's the answer, or at least here is what has been put out there. And again, I don't know how I feel about it. You can judge for yourself. And hopefully we will get more information. But here's the answer. So apparently Elon Musk was a prior client of Brown Rudnick. And this was something that Johnny Depp did not know, and Adam Waldman did not know when they hired Brown Rudnick. Now, there's a whole long history of how things came to be with the lawyers, and like how Brown Rudnick even came on board as Johnny Depp's attorneys, and how even though Johnny Depp was so close to Adam Waldman, and Adam Waldman had done so many amazing things for Johnny Depp, including, as it turns out, finding an obscure loophole in California law that enabled Johnny Depp to really get a leg up on that dispute that he was having with his business managers. Now, that's a whole other thing, but Johnny was involved in this this legal dispute over a lot of money with his former business managers, and Adam Waldman was with him way back at that point, and ended up doing a lot of things that really helped Johnny in that respect. But here's what happened. So Adam Waldman, in the course of handling this dispute with the business managers, he ended up hiring Ben Chew, who worked at that point at a law firm called Mannett. And so Ben Chew and Mannett were hired to be the local counsel for this dispute with the lawyers, with business managers. And at that point, apparently, Adam began to have some problems initially with their way of doing things with Mannett and I guess with Ben Chew, because he complained loudly about overbilling, that they were overbilling Johnny, and other kinds of issues. Ben Chew ended up leaving Mannett and then going to Brown Rudnick. But basically, the first sort of issue that Adam had with Ben Chew is that apparently they settled that case with the business managers. And so Adam Waldman really felt that case, that Johnny had an unlosable case, apparently, against the business managers, particularly all the work that Adam had done for him building up this case. And that at the last minute, Mannett, or was it Brown Rudnick at that point, but wherever Ben Chew was, Mannett or Brown Rudnick ended up settling that at the last minute. So apparently, and again, I'm getting this from what Jax has posted online, but the accusation is that even going way back to that dispute with Johnny's business managers, that there were some things that happened on the part of Mannett that Adam had issues with. So the overbilling, and then the settling a case that he, I guess, didn't feel should have been settled. Well, anyway, so this sort of sets the stage. This is kind of the background then for how things would develop. Now, Adam was, as you remember, Johnny's attorney when the UK trial occurred. Adam had leaked or had given, remember all of that great audio between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp that was so damning for Amber Heard? Well, Adam put that out there. And what happened after that is that Brown Rudnick, after that, for some reason, maybe they had an issue with Adam putting that out there, but they asked to be taken off the case, to be removed from the case, the UK case. And then days after they asked to be taken off that case, someone from Brown Rudnick's office leaked 70,000 texts from Johnny Depp, 70,000 pieces of potential evidence, leaked it to the other side, leaked it to NGN, the company that owns the Sun. So let me just back up again just to make sure we understand, okay? Brown Rudnick, someone at Brown Rudnick, in the course of the UK trial, when they were supposed to have been defending Johnny Depp and on Johnny Depp's side, they leaked 70,000 texts, some of them, as you'll remember, quite problematic, to the Sun. And the Sun, remember, who Johnny Depp was engaged in this legal dispute with, because the UK trial, if you'll remember, he was suing the Sun for lies, for libel, right? And so Brown Rudnick, it was supposed to be defending him, and someone at their office gave all these texts to the opponent, the enemy. All right. So that's another thing that Jax has pointed out as being deeply concerning. And Adam Waldman has a big issue with it as well, apparently. Now, Elon Musk. So the idea is, here's the argument that Jax and others are making, all right, is that Elon Musk was a very important potential witness for what happened to Amber on the 21st of May. Amber Heard's attempt to basically construct this hoax where she would pretend like she had been injured and that Johnny Depp had hurt her and what have you, right? Well, the significance of the 21st is that apparently she had been hanging out with Elon Musk both before and after. So because this happened on the 21st of May, and apparently Amber Heard was hanging out with Elon Musk before and after, then calling Elon as a witness should have been very helpful to Johnny's side. Because one of the things that he was trying to do was expose the fact that Amber actually lied about that and other events. And so this was a big deal. And the claim that Jax and others are making is that basically Brown Rudnick, and we're talking about now over into the Virginia trial, and I'll tell you how they ended up getting on board there. But Brown Rudnick, they were Johnny Depp's attorneys in Virginia. And the claim that's been made is that they deliberately slow rolled and basically didn't even really attempt to get Elon Musk as a witness. The claim that's being made is that, yes, they did issue 2 subpoenas, but they issued the subpoenas only 6 months before the trial was due to start. And, the trial had been postponed multiple times and everything. But the subpoenas were issued only 6 months before the trial was due to start. And so, some attorneys, some people, including Andrea Burkhart, one of the attorneys who's been following this, have been saying that this is really, in a lot of ways, gross negligence on the part of the attorneys, that Johnny Depp's attorneys, that someone as important as Elon Musk, in so many ways to this case, as we know, that they'd really just kind of that they were just half-assing this attempt to get him, and that they didn't even start trying until 6 months beforehand. And I know that a number of people have said that Elon Musk was an extremely difficult witness to pin down, and that he apparently he moved to Texas at one point. He was being shady, trying not to disclose his address. Like, he was clearly evading the subpoena. And so some people who've defended Brown Rudnick have said, look, they issued subpoenas, but the guy is, he's a billionaire, and if he doesn't want to be found, or if he wants to obstruct the process, then he can do that. To which then Andrea said, well, there should be a record then that Brown Rudnick really tried exhaustively through different mechanisms that I'm not aware of, but Andrea, in her tweet, she laid them out. She said they could have done this, they could have done that. There were things that they needed to have done procedurally that there's no record of them doing. So it really just seems like it was very much, when it came to Elon, I think it was very much a half-ass attempt. Now, one could argue, and some have made the argument, that maybe he was not a good witness, that in fact he was very unpredictable, that in depositions before, like a deposition that he sat for when he was accused of sexual harassment sometime before, that he had run circles around the attorneys, and that it really would not have been a good thing to have him on the witness stand, so to speak. Although Andrea and others claim, well, you still need to depose him because Amber had called him as a witness potentially. And so no matter what you think he might say, you need to have that in a deposition. So Andrea really seems to think, and I hope I'm not putting words in her mouth, but I'm trying to hew very close in this to what people have actually expressed on Twitter. Andrea seems to think that the Elon thing was just a huge dropping of the ball. And so if we know that Elon Musk was a client of, had been a client in the past of Brown Rudnick, and of course we know he's worth a ton of money, and we know that he's already extremely litigious and manipulative. I mean, he was sending legal threats to Warner Brothers to make them keep Amber on and so forth. Then the accusation that Jax and others seem to be making is that having Elon Musk as their client influenced Brown Rudnick to basically try to keep him out of this trial. And they also bring up the fact, as you'll remember, that there was video of Amber and Elon together, like the elevator video that somehow was it lost or destroyed or what have you. But that's something that people also point to as being very odd and very problematic. Now, I did see someone on Twitter ask, is it really relevant? Is that connection really relevant when the last case that Brown Rudnick tried for Elon Musk or dealt with was a 2018 SEC case that was concluded? And so I understand that there might be some pushback, and this is something that I'll need to look into. I do think it's a valid question to ask, okay, at what point was Elon Musk their client? Was he continuing to be their client, or did that end in 2018? I think that one of the things that it would be really helpful to know, and maybe if Adam speaks out, this is something he can help us with, is what was the nature of this relationship with Elon Musk? And was it really the case that he was this really big client of Brown Rudnick and that they had the expectation or the hope of continuing business with him? Or was it something that really was sewn up in 2018 and they really wouldn't have cared past that what happened to him, or if he was brought into this trial or not? So that's, to me, is something significant, and I want to look into more. Now, Andrea also, by the way, pointed out another really inexplicable error on the part of Brown Rudnick in the way that they totally, and y'all, I realized this at the time too, they totally botched the Jennifer Howell deposition, or rather the lead up to it. Because if you'll remember, Jennifer Howell was expected to be a huge witness for Johnny Depp because she had been best friends with Amber Heard's sister, Whitney, and had had a lot of conversations that looked damning for Amber Heard and her perspective and her case. And so a lot of us thought when Jennifer Howell came on, when her deposition came on, a lot of us were like, oh my God, like overjoyed, because we're like, here it is. She's going to bring it. And Jennifer Howell suffered a lot of harassment for coming forward and testifying for Johnny Depp and going on the record for him and speaking out for him in public as well. She went through a lot. She was harassed a lot. Someone even, I believe, broke into her home. Anyway, my point is, she got a lot of shit for that, and it took a lot of courage. And it's really a shame that when her deposition finally appeared, she was on screen for like, I don't know, it felt like a minute or two. I don't even remember, but it was very, very brief. It felt like no time at all. And they didn't ask her anything of any significance. And I said at the time, what the hell is this? Because she had so much that she could testify to, and that she had had mustered the courage to testify to. And now they're not taking any of that from her. She's not saying any of that. And at the time, Andrea said that what had happened there is that when the Brown Rudnick attorney who cross-examined Whitney and I can't remember who it was, but cross-examined Whitney, Amber's sister, that when that cross-examination happened, that this attorney for Brown Rudnick failed to lay the groundwork in their questioning for Jennifer Howell to come on as a rebuttal witness and talk about her conversations with Whitney. And so the reason why that Jennifer Howell testimony was basically neutered and was basically, no offense, Jennifer, I'm sorry, but was made like insignificant is because Brown Rudnick screwed up, and they screwed up in such a huge way that even I, a non-legal person, noticed it and said to Andrea, what the hell is up with this? And so this was a huge problem. Now, could that have just been incompetence, or they dropped the ball on that? It doesn't have to be intentional malfeasance, intentional negligence. Yeah, it doesn't. But it sure was a big mistake. And so to those people who say that Brown Rudnick, that Ben and Camille and their team did a flawless job, and that what are we even doing, like nitpicking them or what have you? Well, they didn't do a flawless job. Okay. I agree with you. Her examination of Amber Heard, it was masterful. And it is hard for me to imagine that if she were trying to undermine Johnny Depp in any way, that she would have done that kind of an examination. So, maybe Camille is not the problem here. Maybe Ben Chew is the problem, or maybe it's not even Ben Chew in an overt way, that Ben Chew has some agenda, but maybe he was getting a lot of pressure in direct or indirect ways from the people above him at his firm. I don't know. I don't know how any of this works. And it could be that everything I'm saying here is BS in terms of casting, aspersions onto Brown Rudnick. But that's what's out there. That's what's being put out there. All right. Now, there have also been suggestions that Brown Rudnick should not have advised Johnny to settle that appeal with Amber, because you'll remember he got a judgment for millions and millions of dollars, but he ended up settling for $1 million. And so that's another thing that's been brought up, is that maybe Johnny shouldn't have gotten that advice from Brown Rudnick. Maybe Johnny was being at various times poorly advised by Brown Rudnick in this process. That's something else that's been brought up. So that's one issue, right? Are these questions about whether or not Johnny got a fully committed, 100%, always fully committed performance from his attorneys. And performance, I mean, like they performed really well for him as best they could. Or were they kind of holding something back at times, like when it comes to the Elon Musk thing, or when it comes to whether to settle or draw something out more or whatever, right? And also when it comes to those 70,000 texts that were leaked in the UK trial to the opposition. Like, Jax is an attorney, and Jax says that just doesn't happen. And I think she's speaking for Adam Waldman. And so I would imagine that's his opinion too, that this doesn't happen. It's not an accidental. So there was some way, the insinuation is that they were trying to undermine Johnny Depp's case, at least at that point. Now, you might ask, if Brown Rudnick screwed up all that at the UK trial and released those 70,000 texts, and Johnny and Adam Waldman had them fired them, why the hell were they then brought on board again for the Virginia trial? Well, I don't know the answer to that. And again, that's something that I would like to look into more, and I hope people will speak on. But I guess that even with the issues that Adam Waldman was seeing, that he still felt like that overall that Ben Chew and Brown Rudnick were the right attorneys, maybe since they had a history with this case or whatever, to come in and just sort of second chair the lawsuit in Virginia. So Adam Waldman did end up getting kicked off of that. But I don't know. I don't really understand. And honestly, that's one question that I have that I hope someone will address, is that why on earth were they brought back to handle the Virginia trial if they had just leaked those 70,000 texts? Okay. But anyway, and if Adam was unhappy to some degree with overbilling and their performance and so forth up to that point. Now, there's a whole other dimension of this that I want to get to, and then that'll be it. All right. So far I've talked about the issue of this question of this allegation that Brown Rudnick intentionally in some ways underperformed to protect Elon Musk, and also just because they were afraid of conflict, really. So here's the other thing that I want you to understand before I get into the last part, okay? Is that it seems to me that people are not just alleging that they underperformed out of a desire to protect Elon, but maybe also that being a quote unquote white shoe law firm, they just didn't really want to get their hands that dirty, or they just wanted to settle. The fact that Adam Waldman apparently was not big into settling and actually wanted to go out and fight in the media and fight leaking things or what have you, that to me shows that he's very intelligent and that he is a cut above the other lawyers who don't seem to really understand what kind of a dogfight they're in. And so it could just be that Brown Rudnick, being this sort of more conservative white shoe lawyer, play it safe. We don't want to make waves. We don't want to do some of that edgy stuff that outlaw Adam Waldman is involved in. It could be too that they were just too sort of play it safe. They wanted to keep everything sort of clean and nice, and oh, we don't need to bring Elon in and get all that, and we should just settle this. We don't need to keep it going or whatever, right? And so that seems to be one aspect of this too, is that Jackson and others are questioning whether Brown Rudnick was temperamentally suited to really fight the kind of dog fight that Johnny Depp needed to fight. And look, I'm going to be honest with you, and I have been honest about this whole time. The very first video that I did during the trial, it was after the first day opening arguments, and I expressed then, and I will continue to express, that I was deeply disappointed in Ben Chew and Camille's opening arguments. And I can't remember, did they split it? Was it Ben and Camille, or was it just one of them? I don't know. Maybe. So I was deeply disappointed by the opening arguments on Johnny's side. And then really those first couple of days until Isaac Baruch got on the stand, the first couple of days, because it felt to me, and this was what I said in my video, it felt to me that there was something kind of, at that point, kind of timid and sort of too restrained about the way that they were presenting things, and that it was just, they were not presenting a compelling narrative for the jury. And even though we all know that what Elaine was saying, Amber's attorney, was a lot of BS, I really felt like her opening statement on the whole was better than the one provided by Johnny's team. There was just something a little too refined and too nice and just too weak about them. And honestly, I have to say that for most of the trial, that was my feeling about Brown Rudnick, is thank God Johnny has such a strong case, because they're just really kind of weak. And so honestly, it wasn't until Camille did that examination of Amber that I really came on board. And I thought, well, I feel like they've been weak for the most part, but if there's ever a time to finally grow some balls and get out there and get in the fight, it's when you're examining Amber Heard. So, I was able to sort of forgive my issues with them up to that point. But I only say that because even at the time, I was feeling like there was something perhaps temperamentally problematic, where they were sort of unsuited to the kind of media dogfight that I thought they were in. Now, that brings me then to the last topic, which is Adam Waldman, because not only is it being alleged that Brown Rudnick might have dropped the ball at times for Johnny Depp, but it's also being alleged that they threw Adam Waldman under the bus, and that they were actually very happy for Adam Waldman to be kicked off the case in Virginia. Now, you might ask, why did that happen? Here's what happened, is that the judge in the case, this was before Askarati came on, Judge White was his name, and Judge White made it very, very clear that he was not into media attention, and that he did not want this thing to be tried in the media, and he did not want the lawyers to keep leaking stuff and trying to try the case in the media. He was just not into that. And so what happened was Adam ran afoul of that judge by sharing some stuff, but Adam really did not know that he was violating any kind of confidentiality prohibition, because the stuff that Adam shared, these were things that Amber's team had already shared in the UK trial. So Adam believed, it seems, that what he was putting out there would not be a problem for Judge White, because technically it wasn't confidential, it wasn't protected, because it had already been put out there with the UK trial. But apparently Judge White, he had just had it up to here, with the lawyers and the media and all of that, and he wanted to make an example of Waldman. So he said no, and he cut him loose, basically, right? And that's how Waldman got off the case. Now, I understand people say, well, Waldman ended up being called as a witness by Amber Heard, and he would have had to get off the case anyway, or whatever. I don't know. I don't understand all of the legal ins and outs of it. So I would like more clarification on all of that. And what was the significance of Adam Waldman running afoul of Judge White and of this being kicked off this case? Would he have been kicked off anyway? I don't know. Okay. But one of the things that Jax and others, it seems, and I think Andrea was also talking about this on her Twitter, is it's being alleged that Ben Chew, when he had to defend Adam, because when Adam ran afoul of Judge White, then Ben Chew had this opportunity then to make a case for Adam not being kicked off and to defend Adam. And Andrea and Jackson others claim that Ben Chew made a half-hearted attempt, that Andrea says that there were arguments, really good arguments that he could have made defending Adam that he didn't even attempt to make. And she's talked about those on her Twitter. But for example, the argument that in a public celebrity case like this, that the lawyer's function is not just the legal procedures of the courtroom, but also the lawyer's function is to kind of wage a sort of a PR war. And Andrea said that that's an argument that he could have made. That would have been a very strong argument, and he didn't even attempt to make it. Ben Chew didn't even attempt to make it. And so I think that what's happened as far as Adam is that you had him doing all of this work apparently for years for Johnny Depp. And we're talking years and years of being Johnny Depp's good friend and closest legal advisor. And basically it was Adam who really got in there and sorted out things with the business manager case and really set Johnny up with an unlosable case there until at the last minute, Ben Chew's firm decided to settle it. And then Adam did all of this work on Johnny Depp's case against Amber Heard, case against The Sun in the UK, and then case against Amber Heard here in the United States. He did all of this work, and apparently Jack says he wrote this like 70-page report that Brown Rudnick just dismissed and so forth. And that basically he got thrown under the bus by Brown Rudnick, and they were happy to throw him under the bus, not only perhaps because of the Elon thing, but also because, like I said, they just didn't like his style of lawyering, and they didn't like how much he was putting out in the media, and that he was fighting this like new style media war. And so they just wanted to be rid of this troublemaker. So you have that. And then on top of that, then you have Ben Chew praising in an interview, publicly praising Nick Wallace's book that has all of this shitty stuff in there about Adam Waldman, and makes him look unethical, incompetent, like some wild lawyer or whatever. And Ben Chew goes on record in this interview as praising the book, and then it turns out Nick Wallace claims in the book that he got all of this shitty stuff about Adam Waldman that he put in there, and a number of lies that Adam Waldman has pointed out on Twitter, that he got this stuff from someone in the Brown Rudnick team. And so you can see why Adam Waldman would be pissed and why he would be insulted and would feel this consternation, because he does all of this work, and not only is he not recognized for it, and then he's kicked off. I know some people in the DEPP community do, right? But he's not really recognized for it publicly, like the Brown Rudnick lawyers are. He's kicked off. They don't really defend him. And then he's publicly maligned after he's done all this work for Johnny. And so I totally understand why he would be upset from his perspective, and why others who support him and who support Johnny would be upset. I do think, though, that the people who are voicing support for Brown Rudnick, or for the presumption of innocence in this, and in this case, the presumption of innocence on the part of Brown Rudnick, because these things have not been proved. I do think that they have a legitimate point. Johnny Depp won. It's not easy to win a defamation case. It is not easy to win any case, first of all. That's why so few of them go to trial, right? Because when it comes down to it, most lawyers they don't want to go to trial because you don't know what outcome you're going to get. Defamation cases are notoriously hard to prove, hard to win. Case in point, Marilyn Manson case, where the guy is a victim of a total hoax. And yet his defamation lawsuit in a lot of ways got gutted by the judge, and he's faced all these legal impediments and stuff. Like, there is a reason, there are legitimate reasons why lawyers would want to, after I've just talked trash about lawyers playing it too safe, but I also understand that there are legitimate reasons why lawyers would not want to go to trial and may not want to call Elon Musk as a witness or what have you. Like, I'm not a legal expert, and I see that there are two legitimate sides here, all right? And so I'm not going to be weighing in right now. Maybe I'll never weigh in. I don't know. But I am definitely, my mind is open. My ears are open. I'm interested in pursuing this further. And from here on out, I will be covering this. I do think that this is an interesting, significant topic, whatever turns out to be true. All right. So my apologies for anything that I've gotten wrong in this. I did read up on it a lot. I spent hours and hours on Twitter trying to sort through this stuff, talking to people. But if there is anything that I messed up, please feel free to comment below, and I will make sure to correct it in my next video. As always, I appreciate your support. My links are below: PayPal, Patreon, all of these things. And I really appreciate you, as always. Bye, everybody.